ally with ULS. US Link System is a digital marketing company that specializes in small and medium-sized business marketing and development, and we also help startups to kick off their digital marketing campaign. Today we're going to talk about promoting your business worldwide. And as always, I will start with sharing my personal experience by doing this for many years. I would say scaling your social media follower base worldwide is much easier, and especially for businesses from US. There is several factors that contribute to that. Is the Western culture that the world is looking at, the Western product quality that also the world is looking at, and the innovation that those products or services come with. So having admirers abroad is easier when you are targeting worldwide audience. But if you have done your market research and you are sure that you have all what is needed to promote your brand worldwide, then here are some benefits. You have one brand identity across the world. You may have better profits or revenues in certain areas versus the others. You may save some on some expenses by unifying your product and service sale under the same brand versus splitting them separately. You can reach your maximum potential because by focusing only on one country will allow you to understand how that market works only for that specific area. There's many business factors involved around scaling your business worldwide. Is your preparedness for shipping cost or traveling cost, depending on whether you sell product or services. It is the branding and campaigns that have to be diverse and split for each culture. It is cultural awareness and understanding that will require more personnel, and it is the cost of all of it. Keep in mind, US Link System is specializing in promoting worldwide businesses and brands. We will leave you with some tips, but it's very important that you have a very good marketing strategy, because any mistake or something done wrong will cost you a lot of money to recover. So first and foremost, you have to do your research. Is your brand or product really compatible or with quality control and the rules of all the countries, or would you rather select certain areas or certain regions or certain countries where your product and service is able to be sold with no legal repercussion? That's number one. Number two, you really need to carefully analyze the audience in that country, because we are all different by religion, culture, background, and so on. Another thing you need to consider is your current branding going to be in compliance with a psychology of the audience that you promote at? Certain colors are prohibited, certain signs are prohibited in certain cultures. So you need to really evaluate whether your branding or brand assets are in compatibility with understanding of such elements in that country. Now let's talk a little bit about branding. After you evaluate whether your branding assets are compatible with the cultural background of the country you go to, you have to understand what adjustments you have to do if they are not. If they are, then you have to make sure that you are consistent across the world with your brand, so your brand can be recognized equally across countries. And this way you are going to save time and money when creating branding campaigns, because you don't need to put an extra effort of making the changes based on the culture or the country that you are going to promote them at. You also may want to add to your team a multicultural or a person that has experience in advertising or marketing in the country where you go to or countries where you go to. Again, you may be lucky to find somebody that is specialized before in that country, or you may be willing to open the job post in the country where you go to, but it's very essential for you to have an internal inside of that culture, and maybe some words translated are not really understood in the way they are meant when translated. So this is very important to have a on the ground opinion for anything that you release in relation to your brand in that country. You may also need to be prepared for customer support in the language of that country, because there are countries where English is the first or second language and it's predominant, but there are countries where the native language is predominant and people that know or recognize English are not common. So you really need to understand whether you will need to be prepared for FAQs or a real person, or at least the chat to be answered in the language of that country. You also perhaps would like to research and analyze their competition in that country. Are they local? Are they also international? And who they are and how they promote? Just because you may be new to that market, but your competitors could be seasoned, and then you will need to know what strategies or what are you dealing with as far as the competition. Another tip is making sure, I already touched up on it, but let's make sure that we put an emphasis on avoiding the translation mistakes. As I said, from my experience, this is the most common mistakes brands do. They hire a Fiverr that perhaps knows the language but perhaps is not that fluent in that language. There is no way to verify it. If you just trust your contractor and not verify with somebody that has the foot on the ground and has the knowledge of that language, then you may make some big mistakes that are going to be criticized in that culture or that territory. So you may want to be very careful and double check your translations and verify with somebody fluent and somebody that is local. You may also want to understand the growth pains. If suddenly you start getting orders all over the world and you do not have the capability or capacity, especially now with COVID where resources are limited, then you may sync up the reputation of your brand just because you cannot fulfill the demand. So make sure you are prepared for that demand and prepared to fulfill the orders once they come in. We talked about the competitor analysis before, but I want to put another emphasis that should be part of your strategy build up, because without knowing who is your competition, you may sync up and not understanding why. We talk about branding that should be unified across the board, but do not mistake it with the campaigns, because campaigns have to be customized for each market. You cannot attract an audience of certain culture with images of people that do not represent their culture. So that's another mistake that I see. Sometimes brands have the same campaign going around the world and it's not that appealing to the audience that they are trying to achieve. So ensure that you have separate campaigns with separate visual representation of the idea, not the branding asset, but the actual visual representation of the idea or voice representation of that idea, different country to country. This is all. This is the end of the list of our tips for creating your marketing strategy to grow worldwide. If you have additional questions, let me know. We understand very well that some businesses do not need worldwide recognition, or they do not want to advertise to the entire world. But always keep in mind that being small doesn't mean not to follow the same standards. So if you are going to have world-class marketing, you are going to be scaling whether you are worldwide or just in a certain territory. So always aim for best, always use the best knowledge, the best the best tips that you can find, and ULS is always here to support you in your needs. You can DM us, follow us, please, and if you liked this video, please let us know. We encourage any feedback. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for listening. And if you have any suggestions for new topics, we are glad to take those suggestions. We appreciate you following us and being with us anytime.